Well, I'm not for a constitutional convention, and let me tell you why. First of all, as you mentioned, my colleagues don't follow the Constitution we have. What makes people think they would follow a new one? Second of all, since the Bill of Rights and the 11th Amendment, I can't think of a single amendment to the Constitution that has limited the size and scope of government, of the federal government. In fact, except for the repeal of an amendment, the repeal of prohibition, that's the only exception. And for the most part, they expand the role of federal government when you go to amend it. This is not the right political environment to do that. Finally, there are people who are going to game the amendments. For instance, 4 days after we passed a horrible omnibus bill in March, my colleagues put on the floor a bill to put a constitutional amendment to our Constitution that would require a balanced budget. Okay, sounds good. You poll balanced budget amendment, that's going to be 90%, 85%. Here's the problem. First of all, the amendment said, this amendment doesn't apply in times of war. Okay, well, we've been at war in Afghanistan for 17 years. So basically that wouldn't apply for the last 17 years. That's problematic. And if we didn't have a war, I told you, the first vote we take is for Speaker of the House. The second vote would be to declare war every Congress so that the balanced budget amendment wouldn't apply. Finally, the other problem with this balanced budget amendment, it said, it had sort of this safety fuse in it that said, well, if there's something so important that we need to bust the budget, then 60% of Congress should be the threshold for getting rid of the balanced budget. I went back and looked at the omnibus we passed 4 days before we voted on this balanced budget amendment. 61% of Congress voted for that horrible omnibus. And the one we just voted for about 10 days ago in the House of Representatives, the omnibus there, it got 75% of Republicans and 95% of Democrats. So you tell me how a balanced budget amendment that lets 60% of Congress break it is going to stop us from what we're doing right now. It won't. So that's sort of some of the reasons that I'm concerned. Also in a constitutional convention, the types of people that are rising to the top right now in elections are going to, those are basically elections. There's going to be a process that determines who gets to write that new amendment or the amendments to the Constitution, and who gets to vote on those. And the same sort of political hacks that have risen to the top in our leadership right now are going to rise to the top, and you're going to get more government, not less.